With the end of the 2023 season quickly approaching, the age-old silly season rumors are beginning to ramp up. Drivers and teams switching, drivers moving up from lower series, teams switching manufacturers, and even teams shutting down entirely. It's all starting right now. And so for today's video topic, I'm going to be analyzing one of the biggest of these changes announced thus far, that being Josh Berry moving up to the Cup Series full-time. Back in June, it was announced that Berry was going to be replacing the retiring Kevin Harvick at Stewart-Haas Racing, and while it seemed like a good fit to some, others were a bit more skeptical of whether he was ready to take the next step up. On one hand, he has won multiple times in the Xfinity Series and is once again qualified for the Series playoffs, but on the other hand, he has still yet to win a race this season and has seemed to struggle in his limited Cup schedule. With that said, I'm going to take a broad, unbiased look over his racing career up to this point, and after that give my final opinion on whether I think he's ready to replace a Cup champion and help improve a declining Cup Series team. While working as a bank teller and racing Legends cars at the Nashville Fairgrounds, Berry came into contact with Dale Earnhardt Jr. through a sim racing league. There, Jr. was immediately impressed with Berry's racing talent and invited him to join his Junior Motorsports late model program in 2010. As Berry got progressively better within the late model ranks and began contending for wins more and more often, he finally broke through into the national scene in 2014 when he was given the opportunity by Junior Motorsports to run 2 Xfinity Series races. In those races and 3 more with JRM over the next 2 years, he finished a best of 7th in a 2015 Fall Richmond race and recorded an average finish of 13.2. It wasn't a standout performance by any means, but he didn't do worse than he would have been expected to either, as he finished all 5 of those races under power and on the lead lap. But following the 2016 season, he wouldn't get the call back from Junior Motorsports, or at least in the Xfinity Series, because he was still dominating the late model ranks with them in the meantime. He went on to win the 2017 Cars Late Model Stock Stewart Championship, and heading into 2020, he had won 18 races in that series. He was looking to make yet another title run in 2020, but that's where a little bit of controversy completely changed the trajectory of his career. In the second race of the season at Ace Speedway, Berry in the 88 was battling for the lead with a 22 of Bobby McCarty. When entering turn 3, McCarty went in high and bumped into the side of Berry, sending the 88 car spinning back into the wall. This wasn't the first time that McCarty had spun Berry from the lead either, as the previous year he dumped him on the final lap at the Motor Mile Speedway after Berry had led every lap up to that point. So now back at Ace Speedway, Berry's car was still able to make speed, and he turned it into a heat-seeking missile, taking out McCarty from the lead and ending both their days prematurely. Regardless of whether the payback was justified, the car's tour disqualified Berry from the race and suspended him from the next one, a penalty severe enough and ridiculous enough in my opinion for the Junior Motorsports team to abandon this series and instead turn their sights to the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series. For those unfamiliar with it, the Weekly Series doesn't host actual races themselves, but instead is a massive point system to track the results at all the NASCAR-affiliated short tracks across the nation. At the end of the year, national champion and multiple regional champions are crowned based on the total points that a driver accumulates. So for those competing for the championship, it's an all-out mad dash to compete in and win as many races as possible. And in 2020, with 26 wins, 36 top 5s, and 38 top 10s out of 39 total late model features, it was Josh Berry who got it done. Even competing at the local level with a well-funded team like Junior Motorsports, those numbers speak for themselves, and after that dominant of a season, Junior knew he had to get Berry back behind the wheel of an Xfinity Series car. While he had continued to make some one-off starts in the Xfinity and ARCA ranks since he last competed for Junior Motorsports, in all reality, 2021 was Berry's grand return to the national stage. Driving part-time in the number 8 car, he showed promise in the first few races, with top 10s at Homestead and Las Vegas, but he was crashed out in both of his next 2 races at Phoenix and Atlanta. With only a select number of races scheduled that year, Berry knew he had to make each and every one of them count if he wanted a future in the sport, and the next week at Martinsville, he did just that, putting his short track ability on full display and leading 95 of the 250 laps en route to his first career win. As the year went on, he became more consistent, and with back-to-back runner-up finishes at Darlington and Dover, he proved he wasn't just a short track specialist, but that he could contend for wins on any type of track given the right equipment. But following his 12th race of the year at Nashville, his contract at JRM was up, at least for the time being, and he was out of the number 8 car. He was able to secure a few quick deals with the Jordan Anderson's team in the Xfinity Series and the Rackley Ward team in trucks, but neither of them were winning caliber. Then in July, opportunity came about again when Junior Motorsports driver Michael Annett suffered a leg injury and was unable to return for several races. Berry returned to the team as a fill-in driver for 5 races in the number 1 car. And in the fall Las Vegas race, he took the lead late in the going and pulled away from the field to score his first mile-and-a-half win. With this win for the number 1 team, which had previously struggled with the net, it was apparent that Josh had championship winning potential. And in 2022, he would get his first ever shot at it, going full-time in the Junior Motorsports number 8 car. In 2022, he only built up from his standout part-time campaign the year prior, winning 3 times and qualifying for the round of 4 in the playoffs, where he ultimately finished 4th in points. He was also remarkably consistent all season long, with 11 top 5s, 20 top 10s, and an average finish of 10.8, only failing to finish 2 races. And just to put to rest any of his would-be doubters, he didn't back his way into any of his wins, as he led over 50 laps in each of them, and led 356 laps total. Heading into 2023, he was no longer just making waves in the Xfinity Series, because he'd certainly caught the attention of many Cup team owners, and at this point, it seems fairly likely that Josh Berry could have a future in Cup. Returning to Junior Motorsports, though, his main focus was still set on winning the Xfinity Series championship, and in early September, as of this recording, it still is, but his chances of winning it are looking a lot slimmer than they were at this point last year. That's not to say he's been slacking or becoming wreck-prone at all, because he still only has 1 DNF after 25 races, but at the same time, he hasn't won a single race. After the 25th race of last season, he was seated 5th in the standings with 866 points, while right now he's currently in 6th place with 765 points, so even looking beyond just wins, it's been a bit of a down year for Josh Berry. He still has managed to lead an even 200 laps this season, but if he wants to be taken into consideration by Cup teams, he needs to find victory lane at least once by the end of this year, and recover the consistency needed to put himself back into championship contention. But that's right, he already has a Cup deal lined up for next year. Just a few months ago, back in June, Stewart-Haas Racing announced that he'll be taking over for Kevin Harvick in the number 4 car. And man, will Josh have some big shoes to fill. It's no secret that Harvick has been carrying the entire organization on his back for several years now, as Stewart-Haas Racing has steadily fallen from their status as a championship-winning team back in 2014 to now a mid-pack team. They'll be lucky if any of their drivers get a win or even make the playoffs. And it's not like their other drivers are underqualified, as Eric Almirola is arguably past his prime but has 3 Cup wins to his name and had been a consistent playoff-caliber driver from his signing up in 2018 up until this past year. A lot of people forget, but he even finished as high as 5th in points back in 2018, so while he might not have been contending for wins nearly as often as Harvick, he has been a textbook example of consistency. Then there's Chase Briscoe, a driver who put together a clinic in the 2020 Xfinity Series season with 9 wins and a Championship 4 appearance, and who was even able to pick up his first Cup Series win last year at Phoenix amidst all of the team's compiling issues. And lastly, there's Ryan Preece, who not only has prior Cup experience, but went on a total tear last year during his part-time truck schedule, winning at Nashville and only finishing outside the top 10 in one of his 10 races for David Gilliland Racing. But regardless of their talent, this year only one of the 4 SHR drivers is qualified for the playoffs, and it's the one who's retiring, Kevin Harvick. The team as a whole has also not won a single race in 2023, and they're on track to have their first winless season ever. But it's not like Josh Berry is getting himself into all this completely blind. With the amount of substitute driving he's done in the Cup Series this year, he might as well be going into the 2024 season as a sophomore year driver. Beginning with a fill-in role at Hendrick Motorsports to replace an injured Chase Elliott, Berry made 5 starts in the number 9 car, and his results were pretty interesting to say the least. In his first race at Las Vegas, he struggled immensely all race long and finished in 29th, 2 laps off the pace, while his teammates finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The next race at Phoenix, he ran at the tail end of the lead lap for most of the race, but got better and better as the day went on, and was able to finish in 10th. In Atlanta, he also was well out of contention all race long and came home 18th. But then in his first short track race at Richmond, it was a whole different story. While he was mired in the middle of the pack throughout the early stages, a little bit of pit strategy towards the end moved Berry up to 2nd on the restart with 21 to go. And he stayed right there until the end of the race, finishing runner-up to his teammate Kyle Larson. It was certainly a story worth celebrating, no matter how good his equipment supposedly was. To finish as high as 2nd in a Cup race, especially in only a 6th Series start, especially on a non-super speedway track, was absolutely incredible and speaks a lot to Berry's short track racing talent. But from there, he hasn't exactly carried that momentum forward. In one more race behind the number 9 car and 3 more for Hendrick Motorsports while filling in for an injured Alex Bowman, he only finished in the top half of the field once more with a solid 10th place run at Dover. As of this recording, he made 2 more Cup starts in 2023, both in the Legacy Motor Club number 42, where he crashed out early at Michigan and finished 22nd in the Coke 0400. However, that team in particular hasn't scored a top 10 finish with any other driver since early 2022, so I'll pretty much just ignore those results when giving my final opinion. So in summary, after 8 races with Hendrick Motorsports, Josh Berry finished a runner-up once and got 2 additional top 10 finishes, and was pretty much a complete non-factor in each of his other races. Now, is that good? Overall, I would say he did about how he's expected to, and for comparison, let's just look at some of the other recent Hendrick fill-in drivers. Late last year, when Alex Bowman was recovering from a concussion, Noah Gragson was tapped to drive the number 48 car for 5 races. At the time, Noah was at the tail end of an incredibly successful Xfinity Series season, in which he won 8 times and finished second in points, and he was only able to muster up a best finish of 11th in the 48 car, along with an average finish of 20.6. Then there's Corey LaJoie, who was given the call earlier this year to drive the number 9 car at Gateway after Chase Elliott got suspended. Though he has since slipped back to 25th in points as of this recording, at the time he was on a hot streak with his underfunded Spire Motorsports team and was sitting 19th in points. This one-off with Hendrick was hyped up to be a career-defining race for LaJoie, but as it turned out, he had no speed all race long and ended up finishing back in 21st, right about where he would have been expected to finish in his normal ride. So to me, this also is one of 2 things. Either Hendrick Motorsports is intentionally not focusing on their cars when their primary drivers are sidelined, or all 3 of these drivers just weren't experienced or talented enough to run nearly as good as Elliott and Bowman would have. I would say it's a mixture of both, but if I had to pick, I'm going to go with the first option. Case in point, the spring Las Vegas race this year. There is no way that Josh Berry, a 2-time Las Vegas winner in the Xfinity Series, ran out of talent so much that he couldn't even stay in the lead lap while his teammates finished 1, 2, 3. I understand it was his first race in the Gen 7 car, but I still refuse to believe that the team put any effort into that car. I don't think it's a coincidence that between Berry, Gragson, and LaJoie, all 3 of them have run around 20th place in their fill-in races. Even when Berry finished runner-up at Richmond, he was still hovering around 15th to 20th up until the very end, when a good pit strategy call got him his track position. But now I think it's time to give my final opinion. Is Josh Berry ready to go full-time Cup racing 2024, replacing one of the all-time greats in Kevin Harvick? Well, after all that, I still don't know, or at least I don't know if he'll actually be good or not. Out of all the drivers at Stewart-Haas right now, I would say Berry's qualifications are about similar to Ryan Preece's when he joined. Berry right now has 5 Xfinity Series wins and about half a season of Cup experience. Preece had 2 Xfinity Series wins, 2 truck wins, and 3 seasons of Cup experience. Obviously not a one-for-one comparison, but pretty similar nonetheless. And Preece is not exactly doing well in his first year at SHR. After 27 races, he's only had a single top 5, which is also his only top 10, and he is currently 26th in points. While I don't want to speculate too far into the future, I absolutely think Josh Berry is capable of winning a Cup race, based on his race at Richmond this year alone. But as far as 2024, I think he'll fall in place somewhere between where Chase Briscoe, Eric Almirola, and Ryan Preece are right now. I'm guessing about 5 top 10s at the most, maybe a couple top 5s, and a points finish anywhere between 20th and 25th. If he does much better or worse than that, I'd be pretty surprised. So is this the right move for Josh Berry? After a slight step back in the Xfinity Series this year, I would definitely like to see him return to Junior Motorsports for a 3rd full-time season, but given the sponsors are much more willing to come on board for the Cup Series versus the Xfinity Series, I think Josh definitely made the right call to move up. The only fault, if any, would lie on Stewart-Haas Racing themselves for potentially moving up Berry 1 season too soon, but as far as that, we'll just have to see. So that's my 2 cents, but that is all for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like these. If you like this more opinionative style of video, which I haven't done in quite a while, let me know in the comments down below so I'll know whether to make more of these in the future or not. If this video does receive positive feedback for the most part, then I'll probably make a few more similar ones to this one, with other drivers that are rumored to be moving up the NASCAR ranks. So, for example, is Haley Deegan ready for the Xfinity Series, or is Zane Smith ready for the Cup Series, etc.? But as far as the next videos here on the channel, I'll definitely have another part of the Were They That Bad series out for either the next upload or the one after that. And I have a few more ideas for other video topics that I've never done before, so be on the lookout for all of that here in the near future. And as I said in the last video, I should be able to get all of these out within around 1 week or so of each other. due to shortening the lengths of the video just a little bit. And also, I'm not sure if I've already said already, but let me know your opinions on Josh Berry's move up to the Cup Series down in the comments. I'd love to read all your thoughts on that as always. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for today. Thank you to all the new subscribers. We're now over 1,300. And until next time, peace out.